I've been a huge outspoken proponent against people who just join the industry without education, but there is so much that goes into being like a real entrepreneur.
I have been so excited to work with the Windstar, how open they have been to providing exactly what our members at the National Health Association require.
And welcome back to another incredible podcast with Winds of Change. My name is Janet Bava, your host and CCO of Windstar Cruises. And today I am so excited to have here Mrs. Angela Hughes with us here today. And I'm just not going to further delay her arrival. Welcome, Angela.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. This is a great honor. I love the Windstar brand, and so to be on your program, top notch.
You know, I'm a huge follower of you. I follow your content. I know you are somebody who is an influencer within the travel industry and the travel agent community. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of travel professionals who work so hard to create travel dreams for our guests. And so can you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to our audience, a little bit about what you do and your experience with Windstar?
Yeah, I've actually been in the travel industry since I was a kid. My parents were involved in big agencies growing up. And so I kind of got in. I always say this as just like a teenager, just pretty much out of child labor. But I'm actually born and educated in travel as well because I have a master's degree in travel and tourism and geography. I'm a professor at Brigham Young University in their tourism program. I'm currently teaching right now in the BYU Pathway program for international students around the world. And so I actually take like education really serious in the industry. And so I don't look at so much about influencing, but as kind of a life's passion because, I was kind of born and raised that way and then educated that way.
I love that. And let's talk about education because we talk about travel professionals and the importance of using a travel advisor for booking your Windstar cruise or any vacation that you take. And, there's a lot of education that goes behind this profession. I don't think people realize that. It's not just a way for you to be able to travel the world, but there's a lot of education, like realtors go through education programs and financial advisors. Our travel professionals do as well. Can you talk to a little bit about that and what it takes to become a travel advisor?
Yeah, and I've been a huge outspoken proponent against people who just join the industry without education on a national level,
Mm-hmm.
primarily because, there have been a lot of people in the last 5 to 10 years who have just jumped in with, I'm going to jump over from this or that and just, I booked my cousin's honeymoon. And so I think I can do this full time. But there is so much that goes into being like a real entrepreneur. I mean, at the end of the day, you're a business owner. You're running a business. This isn't just about booking your friends to, XYZ Island and you
Correct.
did it once and it worked out great. And I know a little bit about that because in, the early 2000s, we had a stock market crash. And there was a time that I was like, I want to shoot professional photography. I had a passion for it. I like media. And so I ventured out into the photography world, kind of thinking that if you owned a $2,000 camera and bought all the equipment, you could become a professional. And, so I often compare my situation to that. A lot of mom photographers popped up and, with the advent of the iPhone, and we've had that same thing happen in travel. So I think the most important thing is looking, if you're a client looking for a qualified person, not everybody's created equal, just like they're not in real estate either. And it takes a lot more to run a business. And also people who, are educated, they're certified, they've been on the brands, they've been on the country to the countries. I recently wrote an article for Insider Travel Report about how you could go to Africa 10 times and still not be a specialist there. There's so much to know. And I think it's the same in the cruise business.
Yep.
I mean, going on 1 or 2 cruises does not make you a
A cruise
specialist.
expert.
Going on 1 or 2 fam trips doesn't. You need to know how the data works, the details work, how things flow, how funnels work, how to run a business. And so I might be the wrong person to ask on that. I have a lot to say.
Yeah, I love it. No, I think it's great. I mean, we're all about honesty. And so I want to make sure that we're giving our guests, because we say this a lot. We say, we'd love for you to work with your travel advisor. We work with them behind the scenes to ensure that they're well educated. We have a star specialist program that gives them all the details about everything they need to learn. So we actually promote education. Even if you haven't sailed with Windstar as a travel professional, you can be working with a travel advisor who has gone through intensive training. We take them through some extensive, hours of training, everything they need to know about Windstar for them to sell Windstar, right? And so I think it's incredibly important. So as a guest, what are the questions that I need to ask my travel professional to make sure I'm working with the right person, that I've selected the right person that's going to be, it's a big investment these days to book travel, especially the types of travel that we talk about here, going to Tahiti, going to the Mediterranean. It's a nice investment. You want to use a professional to ensure it's, that experience delivers your expectation.
Yeah, well, one thing is your travelers are pretty seasoned travelers. And so
Mhm.
you need to be having the conversation about where they've been, what types of properties that they've stayed in, not just cruise vacations. What are they looking for to experience? I think that's the biggest thing right now is people are looking and they're being influenced by experiences that they're seeing online.
Yeah.
And so they want to check something off. They want to have a life experience. You're solving a pain point and a problem for them. And they've probably already searched the internet and now they're coming to you because they don't know how to resolve it. Or maybe they're afraid because it is a price point or it has a price value to it and they don't want to make the wrong decision. And so it's a two-way conversation. I always say to people when I'm working with them, let me make sure you're the right fit for me as well as an
Yes.
advisor. Because honestly, if I don't feel like I can handle that trip, or if that's a client that I want to work with, or if our personalities don't match, that's not a love affair I want to
Right.
engage in. And
Yeah.
so it's got to go two ways. So I interview people. A lot of advisors come out very desperate that they need to take every client, and no, I think it needs to be a partnership. And so you're interviewing each other just like you would if you were a financial advisor to see if you're the right fit to sell Windstar. And then second, you can build on that education that you've provided for us and talk about how we're a specialist and talk about how we partner with you. Like we're not working against you. We're working as an extension of you.
Absolutely. Now, let's take it into Windstar. I know you have experienced Windstar several times. So I would love if I was a client coming to you and say, I've just watched this podcast on Windstar Cruises. Can you tell me a little bit about this brand and is it the right brand for me? Is it the right cruise experience for me? Can you tell our listeners what was the last cruise with Windstar and how would you sell Windstar to me or how would you describe it?
Yeah, well, my last cruise was just recently. I did the Panama and the Columbia sailing on your brand new wellness program.
Ah,
And that was absolutely amazing. But I've been on Tahiti, I've been on Iceland. Those are all different experiences. And I also have a group of probably 40 cabins going in just a couple weeks back to Tahiti. So I'm a big fan of your program. But if someone was coming to me, you know, really what the big sell for you guys is the small sailing, the small ship experience. And that goes beyond the, the regular usual postcard stops that you
right.
get. And you're providing adventure even in the Caribbean. I rarely sell the Caribbean, even though I'm down in the Caribbean right now, but I like to sell the exotic destinations. So for me, like the Tahiti, the
Yes.
Icelands, the Canaries, all of those super exciting. I love that you have Thailand coming up. But honestly, I was so intrigued by your Panama Columbia that I actually, called up Windstar and said I want to get on that sailing because again, it just took me a little bit out into the adventure outside of what typical Caribbean Panama usually does. And so you need to be vetting that client. You need to be asking those right questions. And I never ask like what's your price point? I always ask what's your value point?
Right.
Because that is like I love like what do you value? Like what do you want out of this? And then you'll start seeing the destination in different layers for them. And that's what you want to present to them is here's what you provide: culinary, this, adventures, small ship sailing. It becomes, a layered approach
Yes.
to selling the cruise to them. And
Absolutely.
where I think a lot of rookie agents come out with a price point like, what's your budget? What can you fit in? And then I'm going to try to make the budget, fit the
Yeah.
experience. And I do it the opposite way. I make the experience now build up the value of what they're willing to
Exactly.
spend.
Absolutely. And you know what? Let's talk about that because when you look at everything that is
Yeah.
included in the cruise, right? Let's go to Tahiti. Let's get there. And I talk about Tahiti. There's limited hotels in Tahiti. There's limited
Oh,
air, right? Going into Tahiti. It's a spectacular destination. More and more cruise lines are going there because guests want to visit Tahiti. When you take a look at the price point of what a 7-day cruise with Windstar Cruises is in Tahiti, nothing can beat that. And so when you look at it, you're like, okay, well, $5,000 per person, or, $4,000 per person, or $3,000.
Right.
Sometimes we have a phenomenal sales and you can get it for $3,500 per person. And I always talk about, well, what's included in that price point? And then I also always calculate, well, I'm going to go on shore excursions. I'm going to have air, pre and post. And when you total it up, it could be probably a good $10,000 to $15,000 vacation. And that in its own, when you break that up into pieces and you realize everything that's included, the meals, the spa, in terms of the thermal, the saunas, the steam rooms, the 24/7 room service, it is an incredible value of what's included in the price point. And breaking that all together, there's no better value in going to Tahiti than on a Windstar cruise.
Absolutely. I booked a lot of land Tahiti. I mean, initially everybody comes to you thinking they want the overwater bungalow experience until they realize that's a $2,000 to $4,000 a night experience, and food for a hamburger and fries is going to be $75.
Yeah.
And once you start comparing that for people, then they get panicked.
Well,
And
you blow $10,000 like in 4 days.
in 4 minutes.
In 4 minutes,
But
you're right.
the interesting thing is, I loved your Tahiti cruise so much that I thought, hey, we're going to sell a whole group of this
Yes.
and just put it out there raw to people. There is so much interest in people, wanting to go to Tahiti. It's on everybody's life list. And then second of all, you do such a great job of introducing some of these islands that nobody will ever get to unless you're on a cruise. And then third, nobody wants to come in on a big ship there. I mean, we pulled up to one of your competitors and I wanted to die seeing 5,000 of my closest friends arrive at a very small port on an island. It was suffocating.
Yeah.
And we were on our way out. We're like, see ya, So second of all, you're having a very intimate experience. And, one thing that's not talked about so much with your Tahiti experience is just you're off the back of the boat. Water
Marina.
toys that you have there. Yeah, your marina toys there. So you've gone out and you've done your shore excursions and maybe your electric biking, which I think is really exciting around some of the islands. And, you've done your snorkeling and diving. And then you can come back and you're just still floating around the island using those marina toys, and super fun for people. And I think also people get bored. They get bored on islands after 3 or 4 days. So if you're doing like, a 10-day trip and you're 5 days in Bora Bora, you're going to exhaust that pretty fast. And I know people are like, oh, I'm never going to get bored, but they do.
Yeah.
They do. And they want to be moving around. And the idea that you're not packing, and you're not unpacking.
Yeah.
And then also that you guys have these cultural experiences on the island. You've got some of these deserted islands. You've got your little, luau one night that's super fun with
The Bora
local
Bora.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think about, okay, I'm staying in an overwater bungalow paying $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000 a night and having $75 hamburgers, right? Like that is absolutely very expensive. But then having to get a ferry or a plane ride to go, or a catamaran or a boat, right? And go to the next island and unpack. I mean, that becomes a little bit, exhausting sometimes if you're on a vacation. And so the fact that you do unpack once and visit remote destinations, like even the Marquesa Islands, not a lot of, means of transportation to get you to these remote islands. And I do feel like if Tahiti, not only do people want to go for the very first time, but it's a great place for people to go back to over and over again.
Yeah, you guys throw in that added value of the, sometimes having a free hotel night before you get there. That's big too, because you figure like just a hotel in, right outside the airport's probably going to be $500 to $800 minimum.
Right.
And, that becomes an issue for people, even just to stay the additional night. So it's great that you guys have these perks and you throw them in and you make it worthwhile for people.
Absolutely. And that's why, again, we continue to recommend for you. You can call us up and book direct, but there's nothing like a travel partner like Angela. And there's so many of them out there that have registered. They're star specialists is what we call them. And they understand the value of our promotions as well. We have the all-inclusive program that we also run. And that's $99 per person per day. It includes gratuities, Wi-Fi, and a beverage package. I mean, just that alone, incredible value to add to your cruise, that we give that complimentary at times. So look out for that offer. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And that's an amazing upsell. And then a lot of advisors belong to consortia, to national networks, and so
Yes.
you might have a free short excursion connected on certain sailings. And so I use that to because we've got maybe a dozen sailings where we've got additional perks that
Right.
you wouldn't get even booking directly. So that's a big sales point for us as well.
Yes, and let's bring that up. So, in our Facebook group, we have a Facebook group with Yacht Club members, and we have other Facebook groups that are not official groups of Windstar. And we actually had that come up this weekend, and someone said, "Is it true?" There was a guest on board that said, "If I book through a travel advisor, there's perks I can get through my travel advisor that I can't get through Windstar Direct. Can you explain that to me?" And I responded, and the chat was closed, and I went privately. I said, "Actually, there is." Because these travel advisors belong to consortia and they get onboard credits that they can use towards
Yeah.
their shore excursion. So, yes, it's true. Let's
Yeah,
debunk
and that's
that.
not every travel advisor.
No.
So, yeah, it's not every travel advisor. It's certain companies, it's certain ones that are locked into partnerships with you. And
And
so,
certain
again, an
sailings,
added advantage.
it's certain sailings is not everyone. So I would say, what questions do you want to ask your travel advisor when you want to book a Windstar cruise? It's one, are you a star specialist and have you taken the Windstar training to make sure they know everything about Windstar? And two, do you have special perks for me to book directly with you versus booking with Windstar? Because I think that absolutely builds credibility in the relationship that these travel advisors have with Windstar. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a bonus, and I've used that to my advantage on several bookings this year. It's a way to guide and direct people to continue being a long-term client with you. We want relationships with people, and we want clients that are with us for 10 and 20 years, not just transactional one-timers.
Yes. And so, Angela, you've talked about the marina, which I love that you mentioned that because it's, you can actually jump off one of our yachts. I always say, people ask me, well, what's the difference between a cruise and a yacht? And why do you guys say yacht style cruising? And I always say, well, you can jump off a yacht, you can't jump off a cruise, right? And so that's one of our
Right.
big differentiators. So thank you for mentioning that. And you mentioned the incredible value. What else do you think sets Windstar apart from all the cruise lines out there or land options? What else do you think sets Windstar apart?
Well, there's two things for me. I think that you guys drop into small harbors, and so that's really important. You drop anchors where big ships can't go. Really important in like a place like Iceland when I went there. And I've been to Iceland multiple times by land. And you guys are dropping into small ports. You're seeing um places that you're not going to see on a big, 7,000 person ship again.
Right.
And then second of all, I think it's the culinary for me. The food's really good. I love your specialty restaurants. Um, there's probably 30 of us in there. You can book a couple of those throughout your week. And I squeezed in even a few more times when I was down in Colombia. Um, and so I feel like they make it, yeah, super personal for you. One of the things for me though is your staff. And I'm going to give a shout out to that crew on every ship because I went on a cruise maybe 2 years ago, came back a couple of years later when I did the Columbia sailing back in February or March, and someone right on the ship was like, "Oh, hi, I remember you from here." And that's incredible that you could have people coming week after week, and that people on the ship would remember you. That makes you feel like you're part of a family and not standing in a long line all the time. Um, you're not
Absolutely.
jostling for anything there. I love that you can walk on, walk off the ship. And I have to preface, I'm not a cruiser. Like I've been to over 120 countries by land. I do extensive safari, extensive exotics. Like to get me on a ship is not really my first preference any day, but I'll do Windstar any day for the
Amazing.
fact that it feels like I can walk on, walk off. Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's pretty phenomenal. And the last question, I know I've been drilling you, Angela, and I appreciate this. But last question, and definitely not least. So I talked a lot about our guests. I want to make sure everyone is equipped with information. And so from your lens, if there was someone who was trying out Windstar for the very first time, what would be the first cruise you would recommend for them to do with Windstar?
I think for me, I definitely go on your yacht style ships versus your sailing ships as a start. But I see a lot of people once they've done the yacht sailing ships, then they want to try the sailing ships. And so, in terms of like the type of ship, because you have two different types of ships. I mean,
Mhm.
you need to know what you're buying there because they're two different experiences.
Yes.
I feel like Tahiti is always going to be a top seller for anybody That's on everybody's list. So in terms of destination, that's a great one. But the beautiful thing about Windstar is you're going to repeat time and time again. I just received, no kidding, this morning a text from somebody that was on the Columbia sailing with me that's now doing Athens with you
Oh, wow.
guys, and then they're doing Canary Islands. And she actually texted me a video this morning, and she said, "I never get tired of the music when they raise the sails." I mean, she loves the sailing ships, and so for her that was a big moment.
Yeah.
But I really think it comes down to like what your adventure level is and what you want out of it.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't want anything out of it. Like I sometimes I just want spa and um relaxation. And
Relaxation.
so I think that you need to pick whatever that is for you.
I love that. Yes, and we've been talking about that. Sometimes you want to go and do a lot of things and a lot of activities, and sometimes you just want to go and relax and be taken care of and just be pampered. And regardless of what you want to do, I think Windstar is the right choice for you. Angela, you've been phenomenal, so informative. Always enjoy talking to you. I always learn something new. So thank you so much for joining us here. I know you're traveling in the Caribbean right now, and I appreciate you taking a short time to say hello to all of our friends here at Windstar. And we hope to see you on board very soon, it seems, back in Tahiti.
Yeah, so follow along. I'll definitely be down there and I'm excited. I've got several sailings on the books with you guys, and I'm a client myself, so it's always a pleasure.
Amazing. Thank you, Angela. Bye-bye. Welcome back to Winds of Change on this very special episode where we're going to be talking about how to book travel. And when I mean how is with who. And so at Windstar Cruises, we are very proud to work alongside travel professionals all over the world who trust us with their business, they trust us with their client, and they work with guests like you to ensure that they deliver the best experience for you. Now, our job is to deliver an incredible cruise experience, but their job is much tougher because they're working with you to ensure they're booking your cruise, your hotel, your air, and everything that you and your family need to have a wonderful experience. We know that you have many cruise lines to choose from and many travel professionals. But we're going to talk about today a very special kind of travel professional and a very special kind of cruise. And so before I get started, I want to bring two amazing human beings that I have had the pleasure to work with in the last few years that I've been here at Windstar Cruises. And so please help me welcome Lisa McCarl and Wanda Huberman. Welcome, ladies.
Hello,
Thank
Janet.
you.
Thanks for having us.
For those who do not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Let's just take a couple of seconds to introduce yourselves and what exactly do you do?
Been a travel advisor for more than 20 years, and um, I've booked a lot of Windstar cruises, love the company. And one of the things that I learned is my husband and I happen to be plant-based. And our first Windstar cruise, it was very apparent that they were going to work with us and do a great job. So when I first met Wanda Huberman, it was at a National Health Association conference. And I saw the way she prepared the meals, and it was so fabulous that I thought, wow, if you can do this for 350 people in a hotel, we can do this on a small ship. And I'll let Wanda take it from there.
Thank you, Lisa. That was a great meeting when Lisa had the foresight to see what could be done in travel, and you see her level excitement. She hooked me right away. I was so excited to work with her, and I have been so excited to work with the Windstar, the entire team, especially the culinary team, and how open they have been to providing exactly what our members at the National Health Association require and want.
Yes, yes. And so very important. Can you tell us, our members, the National Health Association, and I know you've mentioned briefly plant-based, Lisa, but what we're going to talk about here in just a few moments are, we've talked a lot about culinary experiences on board Windstar and the variety and our, partnership. We're the official cruise line of the James Beard Foundation. But we had Diana on the podcast and she briefly mentioned that we have plant-based cruises that we now offer. And the reason why we do is because of you two. And so I do want to talk about the National Health Association, your involvement with that, Wanda and Lisa, and how that then came about into a cruise.
Okay, I'll start with that one. The National Health Association was founded in 1948. It's a nonprofit international organization of mostly lay people. And our mission is to just educate people that health results from healthful living. So, how you can play hard, have fun, sleep, exercise, and primarily how you can eat healthy to both prevent and reverse many common diseases. And we have thousands of members, tens of thousands, and it's been successful for over 75 years. There's a lot of evidence based information
Hmm.
that has been peer reviewed in science journals. So for Windstar to wholly embrace this has just been a dream come true because travel prior to Windstar and prior to this was a lot of work. I've been living this lifestyle for 30 years. So it meant staying in not nice, not luxury hotels, but staying in apartments or condos where I could do all my own cooking and all my own food prep. And who wants that on a vacation?
Yes. And you know what? Cruising historically has been associated with lots of food and lots of sometimes unhealthy foods and a lot of buffets and, overeating. And I think your association actually and, partnering with you has helped us bring light that not only whether you have dietary restrictions or you're trying to live a longer life, right? Like I think we're all trying to stay healthy. I think healthy is important, but the reason why we all want to be healthy is because we all want to live a long life so we can cruise and travel the world for many years to come. And so, Lisa, I want to kind of ask you, the question that I ask everyone, because we're going to get into the specific cruise, but I've started this podcast with, what was your last, you mentioned Windstar Cruise and doing cruises with us, but what was your last Windstar cruise?
Okay, I have done 8 Windstar cruises. They've all been fabulous. And my last cruise was 4 months ago when we had our fabulous full ship plant-based Tahiti cruise.
Yes. And so it was in Tahiti. It was in the beginning of the year. It was February, I believe, the beginning of the year.
Correct.
Yes. And so tell us a little bit about that, because I think that was a cruise that, by the way, congratulations, you have won an award just recently. So if you can tell us about that award, but this was a cruise that I think really is a testament to not only our commitment to, plant-based and really healthy eating on board, quality foods that you can find on board. But it was our commitment to you to say there's a large audience of people in the world that want to experience a full ship cruise that's solely plant-based. So let's talk about that, how you were able to pull that off.
Great. Well, this actually was not our first full ship
Ah,
plant-based cruise. We also did one in the Galapagos that was wildly successful. And I believe that the reason that Windstar was so willing to work with us is that we've had tremendous success with our groups. With Windstar, we started by booking a cruise to Alaska, but we booked it during the pandemic when cruising was closed and nobody was booking cruises. And when Wanda asked me about that, I said, Wanda, we may get 10, 12 people, but nobody's booking anything right now. And she sent out an email to the NHA membership, and we have booked 100 people
wow.
in a few weeks. So we consistently have had, and that wasn't just a fluke. Then we did another trip and it was Greek Isles and we filled that. And then it just kept going. And so we realized that the demand for plant-based travel was so huge. And you are right to specify ours is more health promoting. There are a lot of vegan groups and a lot of vegan
Mm-hmm.
travel cruises. Our clients, many of whom have had tremendous life-threatening diseases. We had one of our clients was on a heart transplant list,
Wow.
and he learned about a plant-based diet inadvertently. He tried it, and within 3 months, he was off the heart transplant list, and he's now running marathons. He travels with us regularly. We have people who have very successfully reversed type 2 diabetes. So they're very serious about health promoting plant-based meals. And Windstar is doing a great job offering cruises. And specifically, I'll say three things that are challenging is we're not just plant-based, but we don't add salt, oil, or sugar to our meals. So they have to be very creative with other seasonings and herbs to create a favorable flavor profile.
Yes. And the number one question that I get, because I'm a huge advocate of your cruises, it's, well, do I have to be on a plant-based cruise to be able to enjoy my meals that are plant-based or SOS friendly, which is the no salt, no oil, right? No sugar. And I've said, no, absolutely not. Lisa has worked alongside Peter Tobler, and so has Wanda. And you actually were the inspiration for us to enhance our culinary across our fleet, to give guests that option on any cruise when they do come on board, right?
Been
Yes.
remarkable. And I need to give the credit to Wanda because Peter Tobler is phenomenal and he's a legend in the industry. And it really doesn't take but a minute or two until you realize why. He is so organized and detail specific, yet approachable. And he is loved by the entire crew on Windstar. And I think they'll just do anything for him. So I'm going to let Wanda continue.
Yes.
It's been very special working with the entire Windstar culinary team.
It really has. I probably am in touch with Peter weekly many times. For Tahiti example, Peter and I started working 2 years in advance. And like Lisa said, he's organized. I tend to think that I like to be very organized. So he and I are great with spreadsheets and exact menus and the details and the product line. But the way that Peter and Windstar are working for our groups to travel is fantastic because the buffets are endless, just like Windstar is known for. And we have people saying they enjoyed the delicious food and they still lost weight or they still, maintained their health requirements. And I often say, and Windstar just exemplifies this lifestyle people think is one of deprivation. It is one of I can't think of the word expansiveness. I mean, you just can never run out of the amount of plants and fruits and
Yes.
vegetables. So Windstar does a great job of giving us the local flavors. And I've gone shopping with the chefs on board, and that's a lot of fun. And to
Yeah.
see what they are picking out from Italy or France. And I have even taken a cruise that was not an NHA group cruise
Right.
from Barcelona to Rome. And they have our logo, the little leaf on the menus, and you can eat plant-based any cruise, anywhere you want to travel. You won't have the massive buffets that we have. So I still think the group cruising is the funnest experience to be able to explore the fabulous destinations and eat the food. And I think Windstar and the NHA have something strongly in common. We both want to build a sense of community.
Absolutely.
So we're building that sense of community around Windstar travel and around our food. And
We want to
there's no
build a
better
healthy
partnership.
community, I would say.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we have so many repeat travelers. I would love to be able to figure out what percentage. I think we're more than 70% repeat
Absolutely.
travelers. So I have people that are booked for 4 more Windstar cruises.
Yes, I know you're doing Southeast Asia. I mean, what I love, Wanda, when you were speaking is all I can think of was you went from Tahiti to Europe, and I thought, my goodness, the amount of fruits and vegetables that are so different in the both regions of the world and so spectacular. And so I think when the palate is, as much as part of the experience when you travel the world these days, and the culinary experience that you're going to have on board, and to be able to, what you said earlier on, not feel restricted. I know I have a lot of friends that are, dairy free, gluten free, sugar free, any of that. And they're constantly having to think or maybe put off a vacation because they're like, no, I'm really taking my diet seriously. So I don't want a vacation because I'm really making sure that I'm focused on my health. And that to me, it's like my heart skips a beat. I'm like, no, you don't have to, put off your diet and your healthy habits from back home for you to go and explore the world. And for us at Windstar to be able to allow that, I think that's why you have the repeat business that you do. And we see that as well, because I think we're liberating people that, have to feel that maybe the world doesn't offer what they need to be able to live a healthy lifestyle.
So I think because our people are living such a healthy lifestyle, they're more active. You know, the average age probably with Windstar and with NHA is 60 plus. And I'm constantly hearing from the tour guides when we travel. These people have so much energy and
Yes.
doing so well. They love all of the variety of excursions and activities and cultural immersions and all the wonderful things that Windstar provides.
I agree. I think our guests, every time I sail on board, I think, wow, age is truly just a number because the spirit of our guests, young at heart, so healthy and so active and so full of joy in life. Whether they're living a plant-based lifestyle or not, I think that is, and that's why you said that sense of community is so important. And not feeling also isolated. I love the fact that you said, Wanda, I've been on a cruise that's not plant-based focused. And I still, when you see the options, you're going up to the restaurant or looking at the menu, and you can be dining with someone who's not plant-based and still have a phenomenal experience. And I think that's what life is about, being able to all respect each other's differences, right? Or maybe the way that we eat or our preferences, and still enjoy ourselves when we go and travel and meet new people. I think that's the most fascinating part.
I
And
agree.
and so Lisa, can you talk about if I am, plant-based and I haven't, and I would love to be able to experience one of these cruises with Windstar that will have, like you mentioned, there's a massive buffet. Yes, we do have buffets at Windstar, but they're quite different than what the cruise industry is known for. It'll be a massive buffet of amazing plant-forward food. What cruises can they look to book then with Windstar? With you, I
Great.
apologize.
Well, we're super excited to get the new deployment schedule, which I hear is coming anytime. The National Health Association has a website and it's healthscience.org. And we have a travel section in the website, and you can see the cruises that we have, the future cruises we
I
have
love it.
booked. And a few of them are sold out. We are accepting names for wait list. We have September 2026, we have a Grand Japan cruise. And in February of 2027, we have our first 21-day cruise. And we have them also in segments that feature Vietnam, Singapore, Cambodia, and Thailand.
Amazing. So then I will have to get to my last question, and I want to hear from Wanda and Lisa on the answer. So one of the things that we talk about and we just talked about here is that if these plant-based Pacific cruises are sold out, you can enjoy on any Windstar cruise. And so if we have someone right now listening in who's never traveled with Windstar and they wanted to experience their first Windstar cruise and they were plant-based and they were looking for, the variety of menus that and healthy options that the National Health Association, you, Wanda, and Peter Tobler have worked together on offering on board our ships. What cruise itinerary would you recommend? Wanda, do you want to go first?
It would have to be Tahiti. I just was blown away with the water sports platforms, the immersion in Rayata, the beauty of Bora Bora, the snorkeling in Moorea. It's Windstar does it as there was nothing I would have changed. It was absolutely perfect.
Tahiti is definitely, I know, a Windstar favorite. How about you, Lisa?
Okay, I'm going to go a little different direction. First of all, I'd be happy to help anybody with plant-based cruises, and you can reach me. You'll find me on the Health Association website, and I'm going to say Alaska. And the reason I'm saying that, I've been on 8 Windstar cruises. Every one of them has been fabulous. And I especially like Alaska because you treat it as an expedition cruise. You have expedition leaders on board who are experts in the destination, and it's very active. And where else can you kayak right off the ship? That is just amazing. And I had actually done a small ship luxury Alaska cruise with another company. And so for me, I was able to compare. And the Windstar expedition focus on that trip was just fabulous. You really get the best of both worlds, the comfort and the luxury and the great meals, and then also an expedition.
I love that. And that really ties into what you said. Our guests are active. They're looking for something different that's 180 degrees from ordinary. And I think Alaska is a perfect choice, as is Tahiti. Lisa, Wanda, thank you so much for joining us here on this special segment of how and why you should be using a travel advisor to book your cruise. Because if you have special needs, we at Windstar Cruise can absolutely serve those needs, but we look and recommend for you to work with a travel partner and professionals. And I think the National Health Association does allow us to use that credibility to say we're working with professionals. Like you said, there's a lot of studies, there's a lot of work that's being done to ensure that we're validating these, practices that we have and to ensure that we live a long and healthy lifestyle. So thank you so much. Again, we cannot wait to welcome you. And like you mentioned, the National Health Association website has a travel section and you can follow Wanda and Lisa along as well. Thank you, ladies. Really appreciate.
Thank you.